The Nile, a river that draws together the lives of millions of people in 11 countries. A power behind businesses, industry and agriculture in a region that so often has been afflicted by conflict and instability. A binding element between unique ecosystems and home to a diverse and magnificent wildlife. A destination for visitors from around the world. Yet today, the river is under threat, not only from the growing demand for water and from uncertainty over the future of water in the system, but above all from a political challenge: how to sustain cooperation between riparian countries in the river basin. This is a threat purely and simply from us.
The river is a living system, like any living system, and if it is abused, it can die. Imagine a scenario where everybody is utilizing the water. The withdrawal is so much. The minimum environmental flow required to sustain the river and the associated ecosystems would be completely depleted. You would have a river that is trickling, that could dry in the deserts of Sudan or Egypt.
Nile water is very limited for the Egyptians because we have no other sources. The rain in Egypt is the less because Egypt is number one in the desert states in the whole world, according to the study which been published by UNESCO in 1953. The cooperation between Egypt and Ethiopia is very, very, very important because 85% from the water in the Nile to Egypt comes from Ethiopia, the Ethiopian plateau especially. So the cooperation should be more, and we have to make together a lot of projects to increase the collection of water from the basin.
With millions more people each year increasing pressure on the resource, there are key issues that the Nile Basin states must now address.
The basin is scarce in water, and this scarce water resource is shared by more than 370 million people.
Making decisions that will affect so many people requires a clear understanding of how the river works and the limits to the system.
Actually, we have to understand first the Nile River system is really one system. It is one hydrological system, and it is connected system. So any intervention in one part of the basin will affect the other part.
Demand for access to and use of Nile waters is now being compounded by the potential impact of climate change on future water availability.
The climate system interacts with the river basin as an integrated unit. And so rainfall fluctuations in Ethiopia, temperature fluctuations in Ethiopia get felt at the delta of the Nile.
We are engaging with NBI, looking at the impact of climate change in the Nile Basin, but much more needs to be done. Africa, among all the continents, is probably the continent for which we have less studies done on the impact of climate change, and we need to do more. It's very unlikely there will be no change in the climate of the Nile Basin. So we expect changes in temperature, we expect changes in evaporation, and we expect changes in precipitation.
Climate change will definitely exacerbate the severity of hydrological extremes such as floods and droughts. For example, climate change can increase erosion, and excessive erosion in the upstream countries will definitely reduce the storage capacity in the downstream countries. So it's very important for countries to work in a cooperative framework to adapt to climate change impacts.
It is widely understood that none of the issues that the Nile Basin currently faces, including climate change, can be addressed adequately by any one country. So the NBI has been working to develop cooperation between all stakeholders in the basin.
The basin is facing these challenges, and at the same time, there are opportunities. So to meet the challenges and to make use of these opportunities, it needs transboundary cooperation.
This is not rocket science. I think when countries work together, invariably, a number of advantages accrue from that.
Accruing advantages or sharing benefits has been at the heart of the NBI strategy since its inception.
Benefit sharing really came in with the Nile Basin Initiative, and it started to emerge as we started looking for development projects, recognizing that the Nile offers different potential in the different parts of the basin and in the different countries. And so the concept of benefit sharing came in, so that whether you are doing a flood protection, whether you are doing energy generation, even agriculture, we should exploit the Nile potential where it exists.
To support the analysis for future potential benefits, be they social, environmental or economic, the NBI has designed a decision support system tool. This tool helps to take the guesswork out of assessing new development projects and is a key tool for enhancing future cooperation.
That's true, actually, because this tool, we are starting from collecting the data. We generate information, we generate knowledge. This knowledge, through sharing this knowledge in the basin, that is improving our understanding to our river basin system. That will lead to better development and the planning for our basin system. And actually, this is really helpful for the decision maker to discuss their plans and to decide whether there is impacts, where it has a benefit, and what type of benefit and how we can share the benefit.
At the heart of the benefit-sharing idea is an understanding that water is a fugitive and difficult resource to manage. But this very flexibility can also be its strength.
Water resource is a highly flexible resource if planned and used cooperatively. Consider a cup of water. That cup of water can run through a turbine, create electricity. Downstream, it can support aquatic life, fish, that people consume. Further downstream, it can be used for irrigation purposes. So the same cup of water can be used for multiple purposes and can serve multiple groups.
Thinking about the Nile as a fragile yet shared system demands a comprehensive approach to planning and management, especially now. In the midst of a global downturn and with the developing threat of climate change, increased cooperation in the Nile Basin has become more important than ever.
Already the NBI has a shared vision, and the shared vision shows that the countries have a lot more in common. They have differences, yes, but they also have a lot in common. So I would work more on cooperation rather than very antagonistic and adversarial ways of resolving the disputes.
If countries fail to cooperate on management of the shared natural resource, they risk two things. They risk developing suboptimal utilization strategies for their resource, but they also, more importantly, risk nurturing an environment under which conflict would be the main mode of interaction between these countries.
The shared water resources are the reality. So this reality has to be faced squarely, which means without cooperation there cannot be sustainable water development. Without cooperation, one country cannot monopolize these water resources, whether it is in the upstream or downstream. So they have to come down to some kind of arrangement there where they can share the water resources.
The NBI has laid the groundwork for this cooperation, but seeing it through will take decisive leadership.
We think about leadership. We're thinking about the courage to take risks, to attempt new things, new solutions. When we think about governance, we think increasingly about the ability to manage those risks. There are clearly issues, but it's going to take bold leadership to take these issues on, to have countries act as adults and look each other in the face and say, we need to resolve the problem, so let's talk to each other and do it.
The future of the river is dependent on how well we respect it and how good custodians we are. That means accepting the fact that the water is a finite resource.